This is the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast with Ferd Neiman. If you're looking to generate wealth and passive income in the lucrative world of mobile home parks, you're in the right place. You'll discover solutions to the common legal and operational pitfalls and how to optimize parks to maximize income. Your host is in the trenches. He's a real estate attorney, financial analyst, and mobile home park investor and operator. Now, let's turn it over to Ferd Neiman.
Welcome back, Mobile Home Park Nation. Ferd Neiman here again today, another episode. My guest today, Nick Najjar. Nick's in the mobile home park business just like me. He's in near Missouri as well. Owns parks, buys, sells, owns parks in the Midwest. Please help me welcome my guest. Nick, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me. Excited and honored to be with you today.
Hey, great. Well, I know you from the past, and we've worked on some deals together as well. But for our guests that don't know you, maybe give us a little more of your background and how you got into this asset class.
So I have a couple of friends that have been in the business for probably over a decade now. Actually, both of them I think are on like 15 years, possibly 10 to 15 years. So they were in it, like most people that are intrigued by the mobile home park business. I've been intrigued in the business for over a decade. About 5-6 years ago, I went to the first, my first Frank Rolfe, Dave Reynolds mobile home university boot camp. Then I actually ended up starting a business around that same time. So I kind of put my buying mobile home parks on hold for a minute. Then I picked up activity again, bought our first park in 2018. And then the year of COVID, we actually bought 3 parks in like an 18-month cycle. And got one set to close here. Supposed to close today, but that's not happening. So we'll see what happens on that. But yeah, just 4 parks, just cranking away, man.
No, that's great, man. Now, I know you find some of these deals off market. Have they all been off market, or have you bought anything on market?
It's a great question. So first deal was on market, Sunstone listing. It was on the market for a while. Fairly rough area up in the south side of Chicago, and I just want to get my feet wet. Got a pretty good deal, seller carry terms. Actually in the middle of refinancing that right now, like waiting on the appraisal to come in. So that should work out really well for us. And then the second one was a off-market cold call to an owner. And then the third one was a wholesaler, one of our mutual friends, Corey Woodruff. Thanks. Props to him for hooking me up with the deal. And after we bought that one, I started looking again. And he's like, "Hey, we got this deal." It was a very rough park, 81 sites, 29 occupied homes, 15 abandoned homes, very rundown, out-of-state owners, just a project. But we got a really good deal. Corey took care of us, and we took care of him, and that we're still in the middle of that project because it's hard to get people to show up to anything. And then the third one was another off-market. I'm getting confused. Oh, fourth one was off-market as well. So 2 off-market, 1 wholesaler, and 1 broker. So good little mix of everything.
Yeah, that's good. Cool. Now, maybe give me some tips on how you're finding off-market in today's market, because today's market's pretty competitive. There's a lot of guys out there, buyers, guys tie it up, assigners, wholesalers, what you call it, and it seems like a feeding frenzy at times. I get calls and postcards all the time, but there are still uncovered gems out there. Do you have any special sauce you can share with our listeners?
Oh man, I actually don't really think there's a special sauce. Kind of like most things, we just kind of put our head down and go. We do use an auto dialer, Mojo. We're kind of scaling up right now. We have 2 full-time VAs that are combing through our lists and really just trying to update our owner records as good as possible. But the biggest thing, and I've been talking to my partner Jason about this. We actually had a conversation this morning. Just the daily, weekly disciplines of prospecting. I fortunately have it in my background of sales, just sitting down for sometimes 2 to 4 hours a day, just literally like prospecting, emailing brokers, calling owners, tapping into relationships, reaching out. Ironically, post on the Facebook mastermind group today. Probably won't get a ton of traction. I always see people like, oh, I'm all looking to buy parks. It's like, isn't every single person in this group looking to buy?
Right.
But just kind of throwing everything on the wall to see what sticks. So I guess the short answer is no secret sauce. It's just working, man. Working hard to try and find deals. So, and I will say one tip, and this kind of funny story that you kind of. So I called the owner of one of the parks that you own. I can share it if you want. It's in the St. Louis metro area. I think it closed in February, March. I called the owner, talked to him in October of last year. Typical owner call, not interested in selling. I got some information out of him. He's like, yeah, I've got this many sites. I just threw out a cold offer. Maybe it was like $2 million. I don't know exactly. He's like, no, I'm just not interested in selling. Three months later, I see your Facebook post. Oh, just excited. We closed this great deal. 6.7 cap. Great market. Like probably one of the best markets in all Missouri.
It really is.
I'm just like, wait a second. I know that park. I looked it up, talked to the owner. I had to talk to him like the same week. I'm sure I got warmed him up. Like he probably went home to his wife. Hey, got an offer $2 million park. And she's like, oh, did you take it? And he's like, no. And she's like, why didn't you take it? And then, Andy probably called him the next day. And
what's funny? This guy is, we didn't retrade anything on that contract. We really tried to be really nice to the guy because he owned another park. There's 535 pads in the same trade area. And we're like, we want to get that one. This one was 68. And it was, you're right. Great submarket, direct bill, water, sewer, 0 park owned homes, 95% occupied, nice looking park. It was pretty much a dream. And he told us he gets called every day. And on the day of closing, my business partner went down there to shake his hand and, butter him up to try to get the big park. And while he was there, 3 people called him and he said, I told you I'm getting other offers. And at the last minute, there was a little bit of a closing statement issue that got me pretty riled up. And he's standing there and he said, hold on. They say they're closing today, but call me tomorrow. Looks like they're threatening to walk. And Andy was there with him. He's like, he's not bluffing. Like these calls are happening. So we're like, all right, let's close the dang thing. And we got it closed. But yeah, that was
so funny.
Yeah. I think that just proves, what you're doing is right. Right. You're trying all the angles, letters, cold calls, brokers, knocking on doors, personal relationships. And then sometimes it's just timing. It's just, this guy, he had no debt on the park. He had his little man cave in the shop there, and he went there every day and tinkered around. He was cash flowing hundreds of thousands a year, just tinkering around. Didn't need the money. Didn't do a 1031, just took the money. He knew all the residents by name. And I asked him later, I go, was he a nice guy? Did you like him? They're like, he was a wonderful man. And everybody loved him. It was like, so yeah, we got a little lucky, I guess, on timing, but
I just love, it's one of the, every single, you get a lot of what I like to call professional operators, like guys that you and me, like we run it like a business, or at least try to, and all that. And then you got the guys that built the mobile home park that have owned the park for 20 years. And they're just such a unique type of individual that we learn so much from, right? And they're just such good, down to earth people that, it's just one of the things I love about this business. And I think the lesson learned is like, you have to follow up every month or two. I mean, you can't let 2 months go by, because they get literally, that's a perfect example, a hot market like that. He literally does get 100 phone calls a week. And why these guys talk to all these people, who knows?
I don't know. Well, and why they don't take it to market. I mean, we bought that deal for like 2.7 million. It was worth every bit of 3 million on the day we closed. Yeah. And then it was below market rents. We raised rents $20, and it was like 385 to 405. Well, now it's like a 7.75 cap on direct bill water sewer 90 days in, right. and 0 park on homes and 0 vacancy. And, it's like somebody would have paid him a 5 cap on that.
Easily, maybe even more. I mean, just because it's like I said, great market. So it's just you get a lot of, since COVID too. I think more than anything, there's just so much money flocking to space, and you see these deals trade, and you talk to the broker, like there's no way it's going to trade at that, and sure enough, it does. And it's just wild. So actually, so that was one of my questions for you. Kind of leads into that. So I actually was talking to a broker, and you said something to the broker. I don't know how it came up, but basically you're like, oh, I don't negotiate with broker. Like, and maybe I'm wrong. It was something to the effect of like, you don't compete on offer. Like it was a call to offers. So how do you handle calls for offers?
So the broker,
then in general, like what do you do for underwriting to stay competitive, right? Like how do you even look at broker deals? You just focus on offer market? And what are your maybe tips on how do you compete in this crazy competitive environment?
it's here on a call for offers. I rarely put the energy into them because in order to be competitive, in order for me to put my best offer forward, I need to kick the tires on that deal. I need to really underwrite the financials. I need to underwrite the property tax projections. I need to visit the park. I need to look at the infrastructure. I'll make the preliminary assumption that the survey is good, the title's good, the phase one is good. I'll have to understand the microeconomic market of that particular geographic location, and then I got to run a number of iterations from a financial pro forma discounted cash flow analysis, including depending on the deal. Let's say the deal was $8 million, and I'm going to need $2.5–3 million cash to get in the deal. Well, I also need to, if I don't have $2.5–3 million laying around, I'll also need to underwrite or make an estimation of how well I'll be able to raise that kind of capital in this kind of time, because I'm going to have to recognize there'll be somebody else, at this dance that's going to be a pretty girl, right? They're going to have 25 million in checking, and they're going to show their checking statement. So that person is going to be able to pay less than me because they're a quote better buyer. So they're going to pay. So I got to beat their offer. And chances are the guy with 25 million in checking is got some serious cash drag and is looking for a lower yield just to put his money in the game. So he's going to make a strong offer anyway. May have already raised. I mean, I was competing one day against somebody that had $500 million line of credit with JP Morgan. I mean, so on a call for offers, in order to put my best foot forward, there's a lot of work, and I've bid on them, and I've been off by half. And I'm sitting like, I mean, Sam Zell says this in his book when they stay. This is back in mostly multifamily, but they were missing deals, and all these new guys are coming in, all this new money, all these new projects, and he wasn't buying. They were bidding, and he said, "We're cursed because we know the numbers." And that's my problem on some of these call for offers. Like, I know what I can afford to pay. And it's not like if off market, there's some brinksmanship and negotiation with, I'm trying to buy your can of Coke with a couple dents for 80 cents. And you're trying to sell it for $1. On a call for offers, somebody's so thirsty, they're going to pay $2 for that can of Coke, even if it doesn't make any economic sense. But then also there are people who have a different cost of capital. When I used to work at a big law firm, and we represented one of the 10 or 15 wealthiest families in the world. And they had a cost of capital and both debt and equity that was cheaper than ours, cheaper than the average bear, because they had so much money to place. They had major borrowing power, but they also, look, we're sitting on $2 billion right now. We'll put some in a 3%, 4% yield because we want to diversify against the stock market. We already got enough treasury stuff, and we're losing how much in interest, potential interest. So it's hard to know who you're competing with on any on-market deal. On a call for offers, a lot of times I had a broker on my show, and I don't think he told me this on the air, but what he told me is he had a listing, and it was a substantial listing. His client said, "We'll give you a commission, but normally a commission agreement will say if you get 10 million, you get paid your 5%." In his case, it said market price, subject to our review. He brought an offer that was like a 4 cap. Premium, it was a Denver, Colorado deal. Premium pricing, brought it to the client. The client said, I'm really looking for like a 3.5 cap. He's like, I put hundreds of hours into this project and your expectations are unreasonable in the marketplace. Well, I'll just hold it then. So that's kind of like call for offers for me. So what I've done is I've really kind of shied away from them. If it was like in my lap, like in a priority on the park, I'd probably do it. But I've looked at some that are, call for offers in five or six portfolio in Iowa. And I'm like, in order for you to go look at 5 or 6 parks and do all this work, spend all this time and money to be off, it just became kind of disheartening. So that's kind of how I've approached those. From a valuation perspective, you got to look at your yield profile. And then I've had one deal where I really pursued it hard, and I basically was willing to pay a little premium and take less of a piece for myself in the syndication, and it still made sense for me. But you know, I know you and Jason, you're big fans of Tony Robbins, and at his conference, I listened to Keith Cunningham, the original Rich Dad.
Yep.
And I sat there and talked to Keith in the lobby, and my company's growing. And he said, let's say your company makes $1 million and you got 4 people. Let's say your company makes $1 million and you got 400 people. Which company would you rather run?
Mm-hmm.
The company with only 4 people is considerably less stressful. Now, maybe you want to feed more families, and there's some other alternative motives, but his point was, you only got so much energy, so much time to chase so many dollars. And I can't chase every single off-market deal or on-market call for offers deal, because you might be, picking up pennies and stepping over dollars. And so we've really focused on off-market, and it's worked out pretty well for us. And we've in this market, we've been buying deals. I'm under contract right now on a deal that's a 13.5 cap, 40 minutes where I own another park in a good trade area. That's off-market. An 89-year-old lady is selling it, right? So I can't get that on a call for offers. So in the last couple of years, cap rate compression has covered up a lot of sins of the past. Conservative off-market pricing covers up a lot of sins of future operations or missed assumptions. Right. So there's a long answer to your question, Nick, but that's how we look at them. Yeah. I'm open to hear. Do you have any better ideas that I'm missing there?
Well, I don't. And so, do you even look at broker listings? Like, do you take a peek?
I look at them, but not very hard, to be honest.
Yeah.
I have not looked at any one of them for more than about a half an hour in the last 6 months.
Yeah, so
most of them I look at like 2 seconds. And there are some brokers that I delete them as soon as they come in, because I've chased their deals, and they're so unreasonable on their price expectations and on their getting you to pay for vacant lots and getting you to pay for future market rent growth that I'm like, I'm not even gonna waste my time. And then they'll sit there for a year in the hottest economic climate for this industry. And it's like, you've been on the market for a year. I've made reasonable offers on them, and they don't even, it's not made sense. So there's some brokers that I'm not going to say who, but there's some brokers that I don't even, if the deal was next door, I wouldn't even look at their listing.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think that's a challenge for us, is sometimes these park owners are pretty unrealistic. And then you also have brokers that are telling them, oh, we'll sell at this. And it's crazy times, but we just do what we can. So.
Well, the brokers don't even agree with it always. I have a broker who I've bought from before, and he told me about a deal in my trade area, and he called me. It's a pocket listing. It's coming online soon. All right, it's here. I go, I know that. He starts telling me 140 lots. It's not yet submetered, below market rents. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, get on my jacket. I'm like leaving my desk. And then he goes, it's only a 5.2 million. And I go, wait a second. I do the math. I go, 5.2 million? How many? Do it again. I go, it's supposed to be like 2.6 million. And he said, well, let's just say that the value it took to get the listing is much higher than the value we proposed in our first listing proposal. So he goes, by the way, would you help me out? Would you make a lowball offer to get this guy sensible so we can sell this deal? And I was just like, so I took my jacket back off, went back to my desk, and I was just like, call me and it sat there for like 8 or 9 months. And then I sold the deal, and I was going to do a 1031. I was like, maybe I can pay a little premium, because I got 1031. And I called him, and it got tied up that day. And it dropped to like 2.7 million. I mean, but he got his commission, so this is the world.
It does seem to work. Yeah. I got another question for you. Just curious. So I know I think about, lessons learned and mistakes a lot. And I think everybody, when they're, new, first or second park, they make mistakes. But any like lessons learned or mistakes you see people make when they get that, like, say 200 to 1,000 lot range? Like, I think there's a difference between somebody new, they're always going to fumble, right? But do you see any common things that happen when somebody's kind of scaling and growing that you might, caution against or anything along those lines?
That's a good question. I mean, I see this mistake, and I made a mistake. There are some big skilled operators that operate portfolios in all parts of the country. I just think that's a lot harder, and you're going to need a lot more and a lot better staff. and it's going to reduce your margins. But if you can scale, maybe it's okay. But what I see you guys doing is once you get outside you're at 2 parks, you're at 3, you're at 4, you're at 5. Well, then you've kind of tapped your current markets in a lot of cases. And then you stay, I'll just stretch and I'll go 6 hours away. Well, I'll just stretch and I'll go 5 hours away their direction. Well, I'll just stretch and I'll go to this tertiary market that doesn't have I can't get to very easily. And then the wheels start to come off because it's not twice as hard. It's 5 times as hard. And you only got twice as much top line revenue. Yeah. And then incrementally, you add 50 pads, you can't hire a regional manager. Right. So you gotta make the decision. Are you going to hire before you need it or after you need it? And I've done both and I've seen both. And I come back to at this point in my life, Noah didn't build the ark when it started raining. He built it in preparation for the flood. So I kind of just budget. Like I got another attorney position posted right now. I'm anticipating more legal work coming in. I need another attorney. I'm going to hire that person now. If I can't keep them busy 8-10 hours a day, well, then I'll find something else to work on in-house. But I don't want to have 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours additional legal work come in every day. And then I got to me and the other guys got to just absorb that. So that's kind of how we look at it.
Love it. Yeah.
You've grown considerably the last 2-3 years. What are some lessons you've learned, or maybe some growing pains, or some, tactics that you implemented that are not growing, that you avoided potential pain?
Yeah. Well, I made a list, so I'll just run through the list, and then you can pick one to dive into. So zoning, always zoning. You probably deal with that almost every week, I would assume. It's not just getting the zoning letter, though, would be my suggestion, but actually looking into permitting and talking to the fire department, make sure there's no fire hazard. So you had my good friend Steve at Due Diligence Partners on, and I've learned so much from them and hiring them, just the little things that other people have run into that they now ask for can really help. You hear crazy things about just cities being crazy, fire departments being crazy, and that they can always pull that health and safety trump card. So you got to just double check on that in your due diligence. Park-owned homes, old park-owned homes are terrible. I told somebody last week, I'm just so burnt out on park-owned homes right now, because some of these parks we bought last year, 60, 70 homes, we're trying to get rid of them, and just they'll crush your bottom line. 5, 7.
They crush your reserves, and they're not a short-term fun project. I mean, I've done it where I was telling somebody earlier, I've spent $20,000 on a $10,000 mobile home, and that is not fun. So I would rather spend, I'd rather give it away for free, give away a $10,000 mobile home for free than spend $20,000 to make it worth 10.
Yep.
And I've done it 10 times in one park, and then you're like, why am I in for $200,000 on 10 1975 trailers? Because you want to save them, you want the occupancy.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So that's brutal, and we pay attention to that now. Track every home in our, I think we were at 12 to 15 on a couple, and you can learn a lot just by looking at the numbers. So that's a big thing. That's a huge focus for me. It's just operating procedures, traction, knowing your numbers, looking at your reports every month. I've just learned that's just critical for any business owner, but in our business, it's very management intense, and you have to be focused and disciplined and hold people accountable and that type of thing. A couple other random lessons learned, we can elaborate if you want. So HUD, I didn't even know what HUD was. Block Park. You go to boot camp, and a lot of it goes over your head, you got to prep this. I still remember, we got these 2 lots and we're going to move new homes in, and talk to the installer. He's like, oh man, that's not going to pass HUD. I'm like, what's HUD? And so the costs of a new home are crazy, especially now with COVID. So just understanding the actual cost to bring in a home. It's not just the home, it's prepping the pad with the 6-inch frost-free foundation and all that fun stuff.
Let me touch on that more, because
sure.
I got a fun story on that. And just for our listeners that don't know HUD, I mean, everybody knows the department, but there are some states that are HUD states. I'm sitting in Missouri right now. Missouri's a HUD state. Kansas, 2 miles away, not a HUD state. If it's a HUD state, you have to install the homes to their guidelines. And then in Missouri, depends on where the frost line is. So where I'm sitting in central Missouri, it's 36 inches So I have to put in 36 inches deep of concrete, and then a pier and then 2 feet wide by 2 feet wide by 36 inches deep. And then on a single wide, you got to do those about every 8 feet. Typically, you got 90-foot centers in your I-beams underneath the home. And then you probably have like an extra big concrete anchor on one of the, in the middle and the back. You're talking 21 piers. You're talking $3,600 in concrete. And then you got to hire a licensed installer. And then you have certain requirements for skirting with some baseboard underneath. And you've got to have a vapor barrier. It's got to be level, which makes sense, right? But you add that all up, you're talking a good 12. By the time you put an air conditioner in there and a deck, you're talking a good 13 to 16,000 conservatively on site prep per home. And I owned a park. I've since sold it in Taylorville, Illinois, which is 20 miles south of Springfield. And when I was doing my due diligence, I was looking for comps in Springfield, and big national operator came into Springfield, Illinois, and put in, they literally told all the old homes to move out, which is crazy because they weren't that old. They moved to the park next door. So I heard a story from the guy next door. He's like, I got like 60 organic move-ins overnight. The new guys with all their money came in. They put in all brand new houses, like 100 of them at once. And they were all the same, like same model, same color. He's like, it looks stupid. It looks super cookie cutter. Came back a couple weeks later. All of them are sitting on the street, double stacked and triple stacked and parked elsewhere. And they said, what happened? He said, the state came by and said, you didn't do HUD sets. And they said, what are HUD sets? And they had to move every one of those houses. They had to uninstall, move them, put in concrete, reinstall them again. I mean, it was a substantial expense and set them back months. But so you definitely don't want to get on the wrong side of the law with that stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I just started budgeting 15 to 20 grand just to prep, like you said, everything, install, pad prep, it just makes sense to budget it in high, estimate higher. And then, if you save some money, that works great. So yeah, HUD is a crazy little thing we deal with in our business. Let's see, what's my other lessons learned? You just got to get creative and be real with sellers. We have a motto in our company: tie it up and figure it out later. So, there's a lot of times you're like, not really sure, but the money will come for the right deals, whether, you're going to raise money or, there's a lot of guys that are hungry to get in the space. And, we partner with a lot of folks currently, guys like you, that do a lot of deals. And, if it ever doesn't work out for me personally or for my company, like there's always a buyer for the park. So, it can save somebody so much time to get a deal. A lot of times people know the deal and it's just like, oh yeah, I know the deal. You're under contract. All right, let's do it. We had a little one right now we're doing. Like, the guy was under contract 2 years ago, couldn't come to terms, and we get under contract. We're like, this is just too small for us, not a fit. And he's like, yeah, I'll take it. Knew everything, knew the park better than we did. So just tie it up, figure it out later. Just good professionals. I mean, I just, I've enjoyed working with you. I haven't, Adam and I just, decided we're going to use you as our attorney moving forward, for mobile home park stuff. But, I've learned a ton in the few deals that we've done together, and good attorneys, hire professionals. Frank Rolfe talks about, pros versus Joes. Like, just looked at a couple of mistakes that I made last year and trying to save a couple bucks. It's never, ever worth it. So good professionals, high standards is really important. So, and the last thing is just winter's coming up, just winterize. We got hit hard. It's funny. We had one of our guys, it took him forever, but he went, it was a new park, right? We bought it in February. COVID happened in March, so just nothing we can do to change that. But come wintertime, we're like, we're winterizing all these homes, and he spent a long time, and he buttoned everything up. And then we closed on a property February of this year, and the owner he would like, a typical owner, we just tell everybody to keep their water on a slow drip because that's the best way to do it, and that does work. It's like, well, if you have good heat trace, it should work. It's in St. Louis, right? It's not like we're up in Minnesota. But the one park that we spent a ton of money and a ton of time on to make sure everything's buttoned up, literally zero issues of lines freezing or anything. And then all kinds of issues at the one that, just by spending a little money, taking the time to inspect each unit is huge, especially this time of year. So I remember, I think you talked about your podcast. I felt bad for you. You had some issues. You're getting out there, getting after it with those guys too. So
yeah, man, we had it. We got bad timing. Yeah, it was a mistake on our end on due diligence. We didn't check the tenant-owned homes to see if they had heat tape, because it's in Kansas City market. It's cold. They've been here every year. Presumably they have heat tape. So we didn't worry about the tenant-owned homes, and then we ended up getting a prolongated closing, and we closed late January, and then it got crazy cold for like 2 weeks here in Missouri. It was minus 10 degrees or whatever, and every one of those homes froze. And then they had sewer clogs, and the sewers, they weren't clogged enough normally to because we didn't have complaints from them. They weren't clogged to keep the toilet from flushing until the water in the pipe was cold. So basically the sewer lines were all like half clogged. We never knew. And then once it slow drip, became ice. And then they had ice coming up their toilets with all their crap in it. And it was a huge mess. And you couldn't put heat tape. You couldn't put heat tape on the plastic sewer pipes really anyway. So it was the big problem. Yeah. And we were out there. We had guys out there. They were taking shifts in the truck. We were out there from dark till dark for days and days, deep, heat. And then it got so cold, they ran out of kerosene in the market. So we had to use diesel fuel. I don't even know this diesel fuel freezes if it gets so cold. So then you had to put thinner in there. So then, because then your propane, your kerosene heater wouldn't work because you had jelly in there for diesel. So yeah, man, the polar vortex bit us really at that one park. But yeah, it was brutal. So yeah,
I've got friends down in Texas, Austin, Texas. They're like no power for three weeks. I mean, it's just crazy. That is at the same time of year, I think. So you just, got to do your best and prepare, but can't change things like global pandemics or natural disasters, and just got to, deal with these first world problems that we deal with. So, yeah.
We actually got lucky on that. I thought my whole water system maybe was going to blow at that park because the clogs were so bad, and we ended up losing. We had leaks, and we ended up losing, I don't know, the water bill was something like $10,000 a month before we bought the park, and it was just consistent. And then we had a leak and jumped to like $15,000 the next month. So it was a mainline leak. We went and found it. We fixed it, and through the process, we found two. Well, turns out one of them had been there forever, and we didn't know it. So our next water bill was $5,000 a month. So we fixed the problem but we never would have found out if it wasn't for the freeze causing the second one on the same line. So for a while there, I was really stressed. I was going to have a $500,000 water issue. And instead, I started saving $5,000 a month. So
there you go. It's always a blessing. Everything. Oh, that's great. Yeah, we had an issue. We Metron meters just haven't been able to recapture. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Had leak testing out. There's no leaks. I talked to Phil Baird at Metron. I think you had him on recently, and he's like, oh, well, we pulled up the water scope, and I'm like, what's water scope? My assistant was always in there. It didn't pay attention to it, right? Just that's a huge lesson learned. Like thousands of dollars we lost by me neglecting to pay attention to something like that. But the meters just weren't getting a proper read. He's like, oh, you just got to take them off, clean them out. They're probably, dirt, debris stuck in there. You've had them for a couple of years. These old parks with old infrastructure, this park, very old infrastructure. When we were infilling homes, we put in, 4 new sites and brought in 3 homes, and the plumber was like this. They had the water line was actually like a refrigerator line, not even copper or anything. The line that you would use for a residential refrigerator. That's what was running the water to one of the homes. It's just you can't make it up, right? So just dealing with old infrastructure is tough, and I think that's the biggest thing that everybody harps on. You just got to be very thorough with your due diligence, and yeah. So anyway,
that's crazy.
I love it. Yeah, man. What do you got? Any other questions for me?
No, I mean, just in general, any other tips you got, or any other fun stories from your experience?
Oh man, I could share stories all day. Trying to think of fun stories. Yeah, nothing comes to mind. Maybe on another episode or something.
Who's the craziest seller? What's the craziest seller response you ever got or dealt with? Anybody pull a gun on you or anything like that?
Yeah, no. We're dealing with the most challenging deal right now. So you're familiar with the deal. We're under contract. Not going to say where or anything, but my buddy Adam and I are partnering on it, and we talked to you about it. And seller finance, really good terms. Last week we call the title company calls the seller to work the loan payoff, right? He owes the bank some money, and it's like, hey, got to coordinate the loan payoff. He's like, I'm not. What do you mean? I'm not paying off the loan. What are you talking about? so then that immediately obviously triggers a call to our attorney, and he explains, and we're like, what do you mean? Like, he didn't know? And it's like kind of a rookie mistake for my buddy Adam, like, to not ask the seller, hey, how much money do you owe? We just, like, he's owned parks. He's an old school. He's a maintenance guy. He built a park. This is another park, like, his old school maintenance he gets. He's in his 80s. And just, I don't know. We're still kind of confused. Like, he didn't know or didn't think about it or what. So
what was he? Did he think he was going to you guys going to accept him as a second, or was he planning on just taking your down payment and be like, sweet, I'm floating on this. These guys are screwed.
He thought that he could take our down payment of $253,000 and keep his note. I think he owes like $370,000. So basically, yeah, he thought he wouldn't need to come up with $120,000. So we're still dealing with it, man. It's just crazy, and it's just very difficult right now. So I think we've done. I think we have like 11 under contract right now, and hands down the hardest deal this year, actually ever. I think he's all over the place. He's like, what do you mean? He's like changing his mind, and like, we think that he just doesn't want to seller finance anymore. Didn't fully think through it. Probably had bad legal counsel. But we'll see. I'll let you know on that one. I'm hoping and praying we get that closed. That's a crazy, difficult seller story.
Yeah, there's lots of those. Those guys can be obstinate. We had a client deal where the guy didn't realize he had a prepayment penalty on his CMBS loan. It was like $300,000, and he only had $100,000 equity. Yeah. So it's like, and he's filing bankruptcy. I got the mail right here. We had a client drop the deal, but our firm was in the case, and he just became non-responsive. We sued him for specific performance. He never showed up. Never showed up to court. We were going to get a default judgment. We'll then find out the debt's more than we knew because he had a different loan that wasn't showing up in title and all this. So it was a prepayment and all this stuff. So it's a big headache. But crazy sellers that decide not to sell or decide to change the terms.
I got another funny story I just saw. This is like we got a new manager, and her husband just for some reason thinks that he's taken over. So we had a riser issue. Plumber's out there. He's out there talking to the contractor. We're like, literally, why are you even talking to the contractor? But Plumber's like, oh yeah, I'll I can fix it. It'll be $300. I'll get it done today. He's like, no, I got this. I'll do it for $50. He goes, talks to another resident, gets a resident, dig the hole. First or second dig with the shovel, busts the water line. We got a main line break. We got we don't even know how, where does this resident even think that he has a right to dig on our property? It's just the craziest thing ever. So we're like, $1,300 mistake that was totally just a resident being silly. But that kind of stuff happens all day, every day. It's just part of our tenant base, and you just gotta do your best. So
there's lots of crazy stories like that. They're not going to end with you or me, unfortunately.
Nope.
Part of the game.
No. Definitely part of the game, that's for sure.
All right, Nick. Well, man, I appreciate you spending time today. Appreciate you giving us some stories and some tips. Where can people reach you if they want to reach out?
I think our new website, elephantcp.com. So our company's Elephant Capital Partners. So it's elephantcp.com.
There's got to be a story behind the elephant. What is that about?
Yeah. So funny. I hate to say this, but you have to ask Jason. So Jason is the creative marketing guru of our company, and he came up with it one night because we were looking for something catchy. And I think there's a lot of Yeah, you have to ask Jason. We'll put it on the website. It's actually not on it's a brand new website. So it's not on there yet, but we'll put it up on the website, and you can email us and we'll tell you the story behind it. Cause there is a story. I'm going to not do it justice. So,
all right. The suspense continues. The cliffhanger.
Go check it out. Yeah. Check out our new website. Yeah. But contact us anytime. That's the easiest way to reach us, and happy to help. Love partnering deals. We do a bit of, I don't like to use the word wholesaling, but we definitely partner with other guys like you that are, serious buyers, that deals that don't fit, too small, too big, just don't really fit our criteria. We've been doing quite a bit more of that. So happy to connect, build relationships, help however we can. So just reach out to us anytime.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been fun.
You got it.
Take it easy.
You've been listening to the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast with Ferd Neiman. Ready to learn more? Go to www.themobilehomelawyer.com for free resources and materials to help you succeed. If you love the podcast, go to Apple Podcasts, give us your review, and subscribe today. Thank you for listening. Neither the Supreme Court of Missouri nor the Missouri Bar reviews nor approves certifying organizations or specialist designations. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.